Welcome back to the Essentially You podcast, all about reinventing your health with safer, cheaper, more effective natural solutions and powerful lifestyle changes so that you become the CEO of your health. I am your host, Dr. Marisa Snyder. Ever thought about how crazy it is to create an entire human being in 40 weeks, give or take? Let me break it down. When it comes to brain development specifically, you are helping to create 250,000 nerve cells per minute during pregnancy and more than 100 billion neurons by the time your baby is born. No pressure. Now, as you might expect, building a brain from scratch is a delicate process, and setting the stage early on is the best way to set you and your baby up for success. Now, if you're currently trying to get pregnant, or you're currently pregnant like myself, or you are in postpartum, also known as the fourth trimester, or simply wanting to maintain your fertility or your menstrual cycle to maintain your overall reproductive health, you know that nutrition and supplementation are critical. And that's what I'm planning to share with you on today's Q&A Friday episode. See, over the past 2 months since I announced my pregnancy, I have been asked by many women, depending on what stage they're at, what I did supplementation-wise and what I recommend for women at each of these 3 stages. Because as you can imagine, there are millions of us in every single stage, depending on what our goals and our vision is for our life, our baby, and motherhood. Now, in a previous episode, which is episode 227, just happened probably a couple weeks back, I actually broke down what I did to get pregnant at the age of 40, and I shared my supplement protocol along with my anti-inflammatory pregnancy diet. In case you want to go back and listen in, that's a quick and jam-packed episode, and again, it was episode 227. Now, also for this episode, I'm including my bonus hormone supplement guide, because I know how important it is to have that information on supporting your hormones and your menstrual cycle. That way you always have a reference guide to go back to when it comes to supporting your hormones, because I know different phases and different times in our life, we're gonna need different levels of supplementation, and that guide is very comprehensive and will give you what you need so that you feel armed and ready to make those decisions. Now, you will find that in the show notes for this episode, which is 231. Now today, as I mentioned, I want to lay the foundation plan and shed light on what supplements and nutrients are really necessary. One of the discoveries I had in looking at the cutting edge research is that most prenatal vitamins are lacking in the amount of key vitamins and nutrients that your baby needs to thrive and develop those 100 billion neurons. For instance, many women need about 4,000 to 5,000 units of vitamin D3, but most prenatals only offer between 400 and 800 units. Now, it's no surprise that when it comes to conceiving and growing a baby, it all starts with the egg and the egg quality. Given the importance of the egg and sperm quality, it's important that both partners are well nourished before trying to conceive. Now, if you're planning to get pregnant, I recommend 3 months to boost your nutrient intake. It takes several months for the follicle to fully develop and mature before it finally is ready to be released during ovulation. And in these 3 to 6 months prior to conceiving, I do recommend being on a prenatal and adding a couple more supplements to the mix to make sure that you are well-rounded and well taken care of, and that egg is going to fully develop exactly the way that we want to. So for prenatals, because I get this question a lot, the 2 that I really love, and not to say that there aren't others, it's just really important to look at the labels, and I'll be talking about numbers for specific vitamins and nutrients throughout this episode. But the 2 that I love, and the one that I'm taking, is Designs for Health. So I'm taking Designs for Health Prenatal Pro supplement. I take it twice a day. It contains activated B vitamins, plenty of folate, B12, iron, and zinc. I also like Claire Labs Prenatal as well. Now, both supplements are free of allergens, so eggs, fish, shellfish, milk, peanuts, wheat, gluten. It's ideal for women looking to avoid common allergens as well as wanting to steer clear from artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives. So I love that these 2 take all of that into consideration when it comes to delivering prenatal nutrition to your body. Now, along with a solid prenatal vitamin, I do recommend 1,000 milligrams of omegas, so omega-3 fatty acids. The one that I love and that I'm taking every single day is by Nordic Naturals. Personally, I think that they have a clean and effective omega-3 fatty acid supplement. They have about 450 to 500 milligrams of DHEA. 450 milligrams of DHEA is the minimum that I want you taking for your baby. Aim around 500 milligrams if you can, and then 200 milligrams of EPA. These are both critical for brain growth, and they help to decrease the risk of preterm pregnancy. Now, you can also get omega-3 fatty acids from cold water fish such as salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring. Honestly, that list, I only like salmon, but luckily I really like salmon. And we get wild-caught Alaskan salmon from our fish market down the street. What you want to be aiming for is 2 to 3 9-ounce servings per week to hit those minimums. For me, it's just easier for me to take the supplement. Not to say that I'm not eating salmon, but I'm not consistently eating salmon every single week. So I'm taking my Nordic Naturals, I think it's Ultimate Omega. I'm taking that every single day with my green smoothie in the morning. Next, I talked about vitamin D, but I just want to speak into this. So I am recommending 5,000 units of vitamin D3 with K1 and K2 for greater absorption. Now, here's the deal. Many women have low vitamin D levels, so 5,000 units will help to bring you back up to normal. This supplement is so important that I actually carry it in my Essentially Whole store, and I take it every single day. I also love it because there was a time where my vitamin D levels were low, especially when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And it wasn't like I wasn't taking vitamin D. I was. It wasn't effective vitamin D. It wasn't moving the needle. So when I started taking this particular vitamin D complete that I carry at the store, my levels went back to optimal normal ranges. So I love that, and they have stayed that way throughout the entire pregnancy. So consistently, I'm taking 500 units every single day. Something to also consider is that once the baby is born, to give them 400 units of vitamin D3 every single day, starting the first couple of days of life to help boost their immune system. So this is such a big piece. It's definitely something you can go in and research. I know I'm going to be giving our baby boy 400 units every single day of vitamin D3, mainly because, especially during this time right now, keeping our immune system high, I think is so critical, but definitely worth looking into. I'm also going to be considering a little probiotic for the baby as well once he's born. All right, the next thing I recommend is taking choline because it is critical for brain development and neural tube development in the first weeks after conception. And let's be honest, most of us don't even know we're pregnant in those first couple weeks after conception. So that's why the prenatals, before or during when we're trying to conceive are so critical, because there's several weeks where a lot is going down, where most of us don't even have any idea it's all going down. So I do recommend having choline. Choline, by the way, is amazing for you in general. I take choline all the time. I take choline with inositol because I want to help support my insulin levels and help support the liver detoxification processes and help support my neurological development and just all the things. I mean, choline is such a major player. It's also a B vitamin. It's B4. So it's important to be taking. Now, the minimum I recommend is 450 milligrams. So I recommend taking at least 500 milligrams and then stepping it up in pregnancy. Although you can probably just stick to 500 milligrams throughout pregnancy, but the baby needs so much choline for those 100 billion neuron cells. I'm taking 1,000 milligrams every single day. Now, you can get this from food sources. Probably the easiest way to do it is by eating eggs. So if you can tolerate eggs, recommend eating 2 or more eggs per day. Then you're probably getting enough, especially during pregnancy. However, I just recommend making sure that you're knocking out that choline intake because it is so critical. And one of the things that I was shocked to learn is that most prenatals do not have enough choline in them. So it's definitely a supplement that you're going to have to take alongside your prenatal. Lastly, finally getting to the last of the list for preconception, the trimester, fertility, all that, is I recommend 400 milligrams to 600 milligrams of magnesium biglycinate before bed specifically because it's phenomenal for sleep, digestive support, energy, mood support. It helps with anxiety. It helps with muscle aches and pains. And magnesium literally does 500 plus reactions inside of the body. It is a critical mineral, and most of us are deficient in it as well because we use it so much, especially if you're feeling tired throughout the day or you are living in a world of stress. That means we are not only eating up our key nutrients, like stress just drives your nutrient intake. Like you leverage so many vitamins and minerals and cofactors when you're in a stressed system. Your body's just working overtime that you significantly deplete a lot of this. Magnesium is one of those minerals that we can just run through like nobody's business. So I do recommend taking it, pregnant or not, trying to get pregnant or not, postpartum or not. I think magnesium needs to be on everybody's list all the time. And because it's so important as well, I do offer the supplement in my Essentially Whole store. It's known as Magnesium Restore, and I am obsessed with this supplement. Actually, I think it's our number one selling supplement because just the reviews and the accolades we get from this is just, it works so effectively and it works so quickly. All right. I just want to speak into gut health real quick because you can imagine your gut microbiome is going to be your baby's gut microbiome. And we know that also the gut is literally the source of everything. It's how we intake nutrition. But also if the gut's unhappy, the rest of the body's unhappy, especially when it comes to inflammation. I know I just had an episode, I think episode 229, where I talked about this, and episode 230, where we talked specifically about probiotics and how we can support the microbiome. Okay, so what I recommend is a spore-based probiotic. The two that I love is Thrive Probiotics and Megaspore Probiotics. Both are great. Getting where you fit in. I love them both. I just wanted to give you a couple options there. And then along with a great probiotic, I always recommend a digestive enzyme about 30 minutes before each meal, or you can take a digestive enzyme in the interim so that it can go and Pac-Man up any undigested proteins or undigested food that may be left in the digestive system. So those are two that I think are super critical, whether you're pregnant or wanting to get pregnant. Any of it, I still think gut health is always so critical to overall health and well-being, especially brain health. Okay. Now that you have a solid list for what to take in the trimester before conceiving to boost fertility and egg quality, and to also just be loving up on that little baby if you do conceive and don't know it, what I want to do is I want to share recommendations for what to take during and after pregnancy next. So let's go into, you're pregnant. Woohoo! So let's talk a little bit about that. The great thing is that a lot of what I just talked about for the trimester and fertility and egg quality is pretty much the same because you need those same nutrients not only to get pregnant, but also they're equally important while you're pregnant and beyond. So throughout your pregnancy, I recommend a prenatal vitamin to address many of the vitamin and minerals that you need, from vitamin A to iodine to copper to selenium and zinc. A great prenatal, the ones that I mentioned earlier, were going to be Designs for Health and Claire Labs. So a great prenatal addresses these kind of critical, important vitamins, nutrients, minerals, and cofactors. But I also want to make sure that you are checking some things out. So when you're looking at this prenatal, check and see, are you working with a significant amount of activated or methylated B vitamins? Specifically, I want you to be looking for at least 800 milligrams of methylfolate. That's going to be important, and B12 is going to be super important as well. So look at those prenatals. The two that I'm recommending are phenomenal in this category. If you feel like your prenatal is not up to snuff, you're definitely going to want to get a B complex, a methylated B complex, because again, I don't know if you've got any type of genetic mutation, if you're able to methylate or not. So just let's cover our bases and make sure that you are set to go there. Next is choline. I know I just spent a whole ton of time on choline a second ago, but I cannot tell you how important choline is. I am going to sing its praises until the dawn of time. So it's so important, it's very critical, and unfortunately, most women who are pregnant are not getting enough. As I mentioned earlier, I'm recommending at least 500 milligrams of choline per day. I am taking choline with inositol right now to support healthy insulin levels during my pregnancy. And I'm happy to report that I passed my 1-hour glucose test a couple weeks ago, even though my OBGYN told me that I wasn't going to pass the 1-hour test because I'm over the age of 40. So I'm not having to take the 3-hour glucose test at all. Very nice. I think it has a lot to do with managing my insulin levels, taking good supplementation, and moving my body every single day. Next, for your baby's brain development and immune system, I'm sticking with the 5,000 units of vitamin D3 with K1 and K2 for the greatest absorption. Again, I think this is so critical. Your baby absolutely and you need vitamin D3 for brain development, for immune system, and so many other reactions in the body. Your baby uses a lot of vitamin D3, so we want to make sure that you guys are both set to go. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I also am still recommending 1,000 milligrams of omegas. Again, the company that when I did the research, and I've done research on Nordic Naturals for many, many years. I have no affiliation with them. I just have loved their supplements, but they do a great job and they deliver the necessary minimums for DHA and EPA for brain growth. And again, when you're taking good omegas, you not only reduce inflammation, but the risk of preterm pregnancy. Next, one that wasn't on the mega list before, but I think it should always be something that we're looking at, is iron. We know iron is important, especially towards the end of perimenopause. Just on a separate note, right? We can become so anemic, and some women just have heavy bleeding. It's just something to always look out for. I think we forget to realize that iron has so many critical, important roles in the body, including stabilizing and supporting our brain health. So something to just make sure of is that you're getting enough iron, especially when, just a heads up that I think every single second while you're pregnant, 20% of your blood supply is in the placenta. And that means we need to make sure that we're getting all that important nutrients, all that blood to the placenta so that we're feeding that beautiful baby. So if your prenatal isn't delivering 25 milligrams of iron biglycinate, then I would consider supplementing to reach that level. Pregnancy dramatically increases the need for iron, especially in the second and third trimester when you're making a vast number of new red blood cells. Iron deficiency can have a big impact on infants' brain development. So just a heads up. So again, the magic number is going to be 25 milligrams of iron biglycinate. That's going to be my favorite type of iron to get your hands on because it's so absorbable. And lastly, you want to support that gut microbiome with a great probiotic and digestive enzyme. As I mentioned earlier, I love Thrive Probiotics and Megaspore. Both are great. Both are easy to get your hands on. So now that you have key recommendations for fertility into conception and throughout pregnancy, I want to shift gears to postpartum, also known as that fourth trimester. Whether you choose to breastfeed or formula feed, your baby still needs a lot of TLC, but most importantly, your body needs a lot of TLC, especially when it comes to nutrition and supplementation. The transition from pregnancy to postpartum is probably the most dramatic transition in a woman's body that you'll ever experience. It's more intense than moving from childbearing age to perimenopause and menopause, mainly because it happens so fast. One moment you're pregnant with all the pregnancy hormones, and then the next moment you are not, and the hormones come crashing down. There is so much about postpartum that makes recovery so challenging. Hormone changes, sleep deprivation, lack of self-care, emotional and mental transitions. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And when we don't have the right support or the right supplementation or the right self-care, it can just feel very, very difficult, very lonely, and very isolating. One of the most important things to keep in mind is that your body is rapidly changing and recovering, especially in those first 2 months. So giving your body what it needs is critical. So here are my top 5 supplements that I would consider continuing after pregnancy for 3 to 6 months postpartum. Now, if you've got prenatals left, feel free to keep taking those, especially if you're breastfeeding. The 5 supplements are 25 milligrams of iron. Again, it's important to replenish iron that you lose during childbirth. If you're breastfeeding, iron store supplies your baby with the iron for proper development and thyroid function. So good iron sources is always going to be a great supplement, but you can also do red meat, liver, clams, oysters, and leafy green veggies. So getting where you fit in, I do think that still a supplement is critical here. Next, methylated B vitamins are so key in this phase of postpartum. Most importantly is going to be B12. B12 is required for proper red cell development, energy production, and helping to form new DNA. Babies with inadequate B12 levels are often more irritable and have an increased risk for failure to thrive, developmental delays, and poor brain growth. For mama, B vitamins are critical for liver and hormone function, but also if you've got a vitamin B deficiency or multiple vitamin B deficiencies, it could point to postpartum depression. So making sure that you're taking a methylated complete vitamin B supplement is going to be super critical here. I do have my vitamin B complete in the Essentially Whole store in case you're looking for one that meets all those criteria. Next, omegas, right? They're going to keep showing up. I think we know we need to take them. But infants of mothers with high DHA concentration in their breast milk have been shown to improve brain and vision development. Even if you're not breastfeeding, there has been research in the role of DHA in enhancing mental focus, reducing inflammation, and the risk of postpartum depression. So good sources that I talked about, again, salmon, sardine, fortified eggs, those are all great, but I do highly recommend just continuing to take your Nordic Naturals supplement and aiming for that 500 milligrams of DHA and then the 200 milligrams of EPA. Number 4 is going to be, I love this supplement so much. We've been talking about it throughout this entire episode, and that is choline. Choline is so similar to folic acid that I cannot tell you, like not only in its similarities, but also in its critical need for brain development, for neurological development, for learning development. I mean, all of it. The needs for this nutrient increase during pregnancy are the highest in breastfeeding mamas. Choline is so important that it can affect infant memory and brain development. And the best food sources for this is going to be eggs and organ meats like liver, or just supplement it. Like I said, 500 milligrams a day. I highly recommend choline with inositol to help support those insulin levels as well, because we always need a little insulin support, especially with our bodies rapidly changing the way that they are. And then last but not least, and this definitely plays into postpartum depression as well, is vitamin D. No surprise that when we give birth, vitamin D levels can also drop. So important to maintain that 5,000 units every single day. We know that low vitamin D levels after pregnancy have been linked to decreased immune system function and depression. Clearly, babies still need it, hence why I recommended earlier that after a couple of days of the baby being born, it may even be worth just giving them 400 units of vitamin D drops that you can take, and also consider to prevent colic or little tummy disruptions to take a super safe little probiotic. And there's a lot of great infant probiotics on the market as well. Whew. All right, that is my top 5 list for postpartum. Again, as you can see, there is a lot of overlap between all of these phases, and that's because these vitamins and minerals and cofactors are critical, not only for the baby's development, but for the health of you, the mama. Even if you're not pregnant, these nutrients are super important, hence why I take most of these supplements, and I've been taking most of these supplements well before I was pregnant, for brain function, hormone balance, energy production, liver detoxification processes, gut support, and so much more. I mean, nutrients move the needle when it comes to getting our bodies to function, because it's what literally drives all the reactions inside of every single cell in the body. That's how important they are. And most of us, we're deficient, especially if we have a lot of stress in our life, especially if we're running from task to task and we've got a massive checklist that we're just checking off. We're depleting so much faster than we used to deplete. We just need more support. Now, the last area I want to focus on before I close out this episode is energy, specifically during pregnancy and postpartum, because the struggle is real. I had no idea how real the struggle could be, but I'm writing this right now. I wrote this at 6 p.m. in the middle of start of my third trimester, and I'm definitely feeling the low energy again, especially after working full work days. So the best vitamins and nutrients to make sure you are taking to boost energy levels, which I've been doing, and goodness knows, I feel like I would be far worse off if I wasn't so on top of it, but I'm taking magnesium biglycinate every single night. I take B vitamins in the morning. I take iron in the morning, vitamin C in the morning. I take about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every single day. And I take 200 milligrams of alpha lipoic acid for mitochondrial production and 200 milligrams of CoQ10 to also boost mitochondrial production and energy reserves. Now, one of the things I wanted to just mention, outside of my magnesium that I take every day, the Magnesium Restore, at night, I take everything else in the morning and at lunch. I try to take as much as possible in the morning because I do a big protein green smoothie, and I actually carry a bone broth and plant-based protein at my store because it's all detox friendly and it's anti-inflammatory. So I love that it delivers, I think, 20 grams of protein. So I make a big protein shake. And I don't know what it is about pregnancy and supplements, but man, it feels like they do not go hand in hand. Everything just feels like it gets stuck in my esophagus and my stomach. So the best way I have found to get these suckers down every single day is by doing it with my protein smoothie or my green smoothie. So every morning I get my supplements out, I take them with my green smoothie, especially when it comes to energy production. Most of us, we want energy throughout the day. We do not want energy going to bed. So I try to take all of my energy boosting supplements and vitamins and minerals in the morning so that it can boost me throughout the day so that I can get through my day with ease and grace and then be able to relax at night. And then I take the Magnesium Restore, which is a magnesium biglycinate and magnesium oxide before going to bed. And it's usually 600 milligrams that I take before going to bed with a glass of water. So just a heads up, people always ask me, when should you take these? When do you take these? I say breakfast and lunch, get in where you fit in. Try to do it with a smoothie if you know that they're getting stuck, like they don't feel good. It's the worst feeling in the world when supplements are just stuck inside of your gut. So those are the recommendations I have for you. And then the last thing I wanted to just mention is that if there is somebody that you know is trying to get pregnant or who is pregnant right now and they're not exactly sure what to take, I highly recommending this episode. At the end of the day, this episode is all about supporting your body before, during, and after pregnancy, and about giving yourself and your body what it needs to thrive. I know it takes tremendous amount of energy to create another human being from scratch. And it's my goal in this episode to equip you and anyone that you love with everything that you need supplementation wise to create beautiful, healthy little baby with ease and grace. Now, as I mentioned before, you can find the link to my free bonus hormone supplement guide in this episode for $231. And if you want to go and check out some of the supplements that I mentioned that I do carry in the store, not only that I've formulated and vetted, and they're super clean and super effective. Like, that was the most important thing for me. So many supplements are not delivering what they promise. I wanted to make sure that there were supplements that were very functional, that were activated, that were highly absorbable, that did not irritate the body, and that worked exactly the way that you wanted them to work. And so the supplements that I personally carry, I have the magnesium supplement. We call it Magnesium Restore. I have the Activated B Complete. I have the Activated Vitamin D Complete, along with other ones as well. But those are the three that I talked about the most today that I happen to carry. So I'll have a link to the supplement store as well, so you can go check those out. And again, the guide will be covering all of the supplements that I think are important for critical hormone support, especially if you're dealing with things like low energy, mood swings, irregular menstrual cycles, estrogen dominance, and hot flashes and night sweats. Thank you so much for listening in today. I know it was a doozy. Goodness knows it took me, 10 plus hours to just research and compile all the information inside of this episode. So I hope that it shines light on how to navigate this important and sacred journey into motherhood and beyond. And then next Friday's episode that's coming up next week from now, I'm going to be sharing how I radically transformed my stressaholic behaviors and traded them in for more peace. Now, this is a very vulnerable story I'm going to share with you because goodness knows there was a good decade of my life where I was addicted to stress, and I thought it was the number one driver for my success. It was really hard to give up. And I know that so many of us are running on overdrive every single day. And I know that if I could figure out a way to move away from that tendency behavior and move towards peace, that each and every one of us has that opportunity as well. So I'm excited to share that episode with you next week. Until then, have an amazing, amazing week, and sending you so much love on your journey.